topic I'm about to discuss is going to make a lot of you very angry, and I hope it does. And if you do get angry, that's good, because that tells me you're on the right side, the side of law and justice, and representing the badge properly. There are many officers that we can speak of over the years that have been arrested for living a double life. And it is placing our honest officers in a bad light, and it is representing our profession or our job as correctional/law enforcement officers in a very bad way. So, rather than stick our heads in a hole and pretend like it doesn't happen, I'm the type, as most of you know that watch my videos, that tell it the way it is, and we have to do something about it. I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. Now, I'm going to just stick with 2019 for the moment. We could go back year after year after year and find things like this, but a correctional officer was leading a double life as a gang leader, and this has happened before on several occasions. And the Maryland Attorney General has just reported that they have sentenced a 33-year-old former Maryland correctional officer from Jessup Correctional Institution to 35 years in prison with a 15-year suspension for various gang affiliations inside and outside the prison and contraband smuggling. This officer was working as a gang member, a gang leader, and facilitating hits from inside the prison to the outside of the prison, and from the streets, facilitating hits to the inside of the prison, and so forth. So there is one example, and I have an example of a case I did at Charlotte Correctional Institution. We had a Miami-Dade correctional officer working for the county sheriff in the jail. Unknown to the county jail, she was going to Charlotte Correctional Institution on weekends, which is a state prison in Florida, to visit her boyfriend. While doing this, she was smuggling drugs into the prison. And we got word of this through an inmate who was not receiving his fair share of the deal and decided to help me and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in Miami set up a little sting operation, and we got her to go and pick up some drugs on the street. And then we got her before she was able to deliver those drugs to Charlotte Correctional Institution. Hence, she was known as the Queen. When we listened to phone calls, they called her the Queen. She was a gang-affiliated Miami-Dade correctional officer working in the jail, smuggling drugs to the state prison on the weekend. And that's not the only case that I had in my 12 years as an investigator in Florida dealing with that. Yes, we don't like to hear it, but it happens. It's a reality. So don't try to pretend it doesn't happen. It does, and we need to all work together to report suspicious activity of our fellow correctional officers. Now, it's hard for me to say fellow correctional officers. If they're in a gang and they're gang affiliated and they're smuggling drugs and contraband in their prison, I don't consider them a fellow officer. So please, if you see any suspicious activity, report it immediately to a supervisor, because you're not helping anybody by not reporting it. These type of officers who live a double life and are affiliated with gangs on the street and in prison are placing everyone's life in danger. Your life, the inmate's life, all the people behind the razor wire that work in the prison system, you name it, they're all in danger when these things happen. I mean, we're talking about drugs, cell phones, and even weapons are smuggled into the prison by these people. If they're gang affiliated, and by the way, this one was a gang leader with the Crips, I believe, in Maryland. Yes, with the Crips, acting as a gang leader for the 8 Trey Crips, as quoted in the article. Now, that guy is dangerous. That guy would bring in anything. Anything. Sharps, edged weapons, guns, you name it. It's a dangerous situation. We got to stop hiding from it. We have to stop pretending about it. We have to stop saying, oh, let's don't talk about it. It makes us look bad. Hey, I'm talking about it because it happens. I'm not trying to make us look bad. We need to stick together and get rid of these pieces of crap. Okay? They're endangering us and endangering the honest, hardworking officers' lives. So you can pretend all you want. Oh, what a shameful thing to discuss that. Hey, if I don't discuss it and try to get everybody to get together to fight against it, we're just going to keep seeing these things in the news articles, and they're going to talk about it. So let's get our head out of the hole, stop being an ostrich, and start fighting this. You know, I'm getting so sick and tired of seeing these videos where inmates are filming things with contraband cell phones. And I just sit there and wonder, we need to clean this up. I know we're short-staffed. I know the pay is low. I know that a place in Mississippi is paying $11 an hour, and they're so short-staffed, they've asked gang member inmates to please refrain from violence. Hey, and if it works, I'm all for that. At least they're trying to do something about it. You know, the situation is not good, but no matter how bad the situation gets, we have to stop this type of activity. We have to stop these contraband cell phones and drugs coming in. I'll give you another example. 2019 again, a corrections officer and live-in boyfriend are arrested on fentanyl charges. A Miami-Dade correction officer and her boyfriend were arrested in Hollywood, Florida, charged with trafficking fentanyl. The 33-year-old Hollywood resident, Adina Spry, she was the correctional officer, was trafficking more than 28 grams of fentanyl according to the DEA's arrest, and she was accused of moving at least $25,200 worth of fentanyl, and she was placed in jail with a $100,000 bond. They state in the report that when she and her boyfriend was arrested, they acted nonchalant, like nothing was going to happen to them, and it was no big deal. And of course, she will no longer be a correctional officer, and hopefully we will hear that she and this wonderful boyfriend of hers are sentenced to prison, just like in the Maryland case I just read to you. Oh, and by the way, the Miami-Dade Queen gang member that we busted in conjunction with Florida Department of Law Enforcement did get 3 years prison. I don't know if that was enough, in my opinion, but she did get 3 years prison with probation to follow. We need to continue to do that. We need to continue to catch these people, sentence them to prison, and punish them for what they're doing, placing everyone's lives in danger. Now, I just gave you 3 examples, 2 from 2019, 1 from a few years back from Charlotte Correctional and Miami-Dade. These things are happening every year, folks. Correctional officers gone gang. Correctional officers joining gangs. And I want to say one thing. I saw an article today where somebody said, I don't believe that most officers go through the hiring process and all the training in the academy to come in and be criminals. And I agree with that. But there is a certain percentage that does. There's a certain percentage of people that are recruited by inmates to become correctional officers. And that is the truth, folks. Sometimes women with no criminal record are recruited by their gang member affiliates in the prison to work at the prison. Hey, come on, sign up for the prison. You'll get a paycheck. You'll get whatever the state pays you, but we're going to make sure you make a lot more money than your paycheck. And they'll come in, and we had that happen at Polk Correctional Institution. We busted a couple of females there. It didn't take them long. They actually were not quite finished with their first year of probation before we were able to bust them. They just jumped right in to the frying pan, bringing things to inmates, having sex with inmates, bringing them contraband. So the majority, I do not believe, come into this job with the idea in their head, yeah, I'm going to start bringing contraband and having sex with inmates. Many get manipulated into this situation. Many fall for it because they're weak, and the inmates see they're weak, they need money, and they get desperate, and they do desperate things. But there are some folks I'm telling you, there's some that come into this job, correctional officer, and start right away bringing stuff in. Another one just recently got busted at a work release center, and she'd only been there for maybe 6 months. She jumped right into it, bringing drugs and contraband into the inmates at the work release center. So folks, it's a real thing, something we have to fight. I hope middle management, upper management gets on the ball. And I hope all you officers out there, it's our duty and responsibility to report violations. So when you see warning signs of an officer being way too friendly with an inmate, hanging out too much with an inmate, doing anything suspicious, don't just let these warning signs go. Let's catch it before the fire starts. All right, folks, correctional officers gone gang, correctional officers living a double life. Another issue we have to deal with in the job, but we're going to face the reality, and we're going to fight it, and we're going to get rid of them. Thank you, Gary York, True Prison Stories.